Yo, who's being so loud in the other room, bro? Someone just disrupted me playing Siege, bro. I was playing Glass, Black Ice, got the PC going. Alright, I'm gonna go check out this other room. Who's in here, bro? What is happening?
So slow, man.
Yo, what are you doing in
I'm
here?
playing my Xbox.
You're playing on an Xbox?
I mean, that's the only thing I have.
You're literally playing on an Xbox in 2020.
Bro, it's an Xbox.
You're so poor. Oh my god, bro. Get hip to the PC Master Race. PC Master Race, bro. PC freaking Master Race.
Xbox, like everything, bro. Xbox is
Yeah, get out of here, man. Get out of here. Welcome to VS Tech. I hope you guys enjoyed that little skit of ours. If you want us to do more, let us know in the comments down below. And yeah, let's get into today's video.
Today, we have a budget PC build, which adds up to around $550. We got a star list of specs here, an AMD CPU, MSI motherboard, ASRock graphics card. This PC can run like AAA games at high frames at high to medium settings. It's got good performance as well.
So if you guys are interested, why would you build your own when you can just go out and buy a pre-built? Well, a pre-built's about $750 for similar specs, and actually has less RAM, which will affect your performance. And that PC will flash up on the screen right now on Best Buy for about $750. So that's about $200 more you're spending for maybe a less performing PC, because RAM is huge with Ryzen. So we're gonna try to convince you guys, build this really good for the budget if you guys are getting into the PC gaming area. And yeah, let's get into how to pick the parts, when to pick the parts, and we're gonna go through a step-by-step guide on how to build the PC today. So if you guys don't know anything about PCs, what a motherboard, what a CPU is, we're gonna go over all of that and how to build it.
Just a disclaimer, the prices may vary due to COVID and stuff, shipping prices and whatnot. But other than that, let's get into it.
One of the most important parts of a building computer is establishing your parts. So with parts, they can range from various prices, all the way from $300 for a whole computer to $300 for one part. So what I would always do is establish your budget. In this guy's case, my friend, he said about $500, and we stretched it to $550. So with this build, we're gonna do a build for $550, right? So we're gonna tell you guys what parts, when to buy it, where to buy it, and how to determine if they're compatible or not. So all these things and more we'll tell you right now, and software we're going to use, more like a website, is called PC Part Picker. So it's going to be right here, alright? And here's PC Part Picker. We'll go to the home screen. We'll actually close this and we'll just open a new tab, PC Part Picker. Oh, hold on. You go to the home page, and then, alright, so you Google PC Part Picker, you get to this page. Now what do, right? This page tells you where and how to build a computer. So as you see, we already did a little build here, I guess. We already have it here. So we're going to explain where to buy it, how to buy it, and how to tell if it's compatible. So from the top to bottom, the first part I would establish is your CPU and motherboard. And in order to do that, the first thing I would do is go over to Micro Center, and I would see if you have a Micro Center in your area. So as you can see, this is just some random store. It's in Maryland. They have stores all over the U.S. See if you have a store near you. And if you do, let's say you do live in Maryland, all you're going to do is you're going to go to the AMD Ryzen 5 3600, and you're going to scroll down, and you'll see right here, you save $20 when you buy the motherboard and the CPU together. So right now, it's $222 for a nice CPU and a nice motherboard, and they're compatible, so you don't have to worry about that. And it works just fine, $222 as opposed to $240. So you are saving $20, which might not sound like a lot, but it really is a lot. So we're going to leave it at $220 right there. Alright, now we'll just add, we don't really need to add the motherboard because it comes with it. So $220 for that. Here is the RAM, alright? And with RAM, a little tip. I would always get 16 gigabytes because with Ryzen, it loves RAM. The more RAM you give it, the better it will perform. So what I would do is I would go down to the filters. These are they really come in handy. So I do 2x8, so that's 16 gigabyte total. And I go to the DDR4 and make your speed at least 3000. So just make it 2933. and then I'll go up here, hit this price button, and it'll show you the cheapest options. So right here, $55 for the G Skill set. It works perfectly fine, and it'll even tell you where to buy it. So if you click on it, and then you go here and click on the Newegg link, it'll take you right there, $55, and you can deliver it whenever. So really cool feature about PC Part Picker. So in this case, at the time, this set of RAM was, I believe it was $55. So we'll go ahead and change this to 55. At the time we purchased it. So actually, we'll go over the motherboard real quick. So with motherboard, if you leave the compatibility feature on, it will actually only give you motherboards that work with the CPU. So if you don't have a micro center near you and you have to build a computer from scratch and you don't know which motherboards are compatible with your CPU, leave this filter on and it'll only give you the motherboards that will work. So in this case, the bundle comes with this motherboard, so we'll just add this one. And it says it's not compatible, but that's because you might have to upgrade BIOS. But PC Part Picker is wrong here because I just built a computer with this motherboard and this CPU, and it is compatible. So don't worry about this. All you're going to have to do is upgrade your BIOS, but you can still boot into Windows. You just can't overclock unless you update your BIOS. That's all this is. But it still works just fine. So we're going to set this at marked as purchased because we saw this in the bundle. So no problems there. We got the RAM, we got the motherboard, we got the CPU. Now let's get into the storage. The storage is a part where I think is personal preference. So my friend, we got him a 240 gigabyte SSD, and I would always recommend buying an SSD, whether you're on a $200 budget, well, maybe not, maybe a $300 budget, or a $2,000 budget. Always grab an SSD. Even if it's the cheapest one at 15 bucks, this is M.2 SSD, just grab it. Alright, because this will run Windows on it. Alright, and you always want to run Windows on an SSD, because otherwise you'll be sitting in front of your computer for about a minute and a half waiting for it to boot up. So I'd recommend getting a regular one that's 120 gigabytes, just like $5 more. So add this if you're on a tight budget. And this will run Windows, Spotify, Google Chrome, all your easy applications, and maybe one small game like Minecraft, because usually games range from 60 gigs to 100 gigs, but Minecraft is only about 10. So we'll just go ahead and add the cheapest 240 gigs, and again, I'm going to use the filters here. So I'm going to scroll down to where it says SSD. I'm going to click SSD, and I'm going to go to capacity, and I'm going to boost that up to 240. Because that's what I'd always recommend doing, and put the price, put it at the cheapest, so right here, 28 bucks. Well, actually, 256. Why not 28 bucks? Let's go ahead and add that one. All good to go there. If you want a hard drive, I would get a 120 gigabyte SSD, and then get a terabyte hard drive for about 30 bucks. My friend's gonna buy a hard drive in the future, so that's all set in stone. So now let's get into the GPU. I would do the GPU last. But if you're gonna be more of a gamer rather than a just overall productive user, I would go for the GPU first. So right here, the Ryzen 5 3600 has potential to have a really high-end graphics card in it. Maybe even a 1080 Ti, a 2070, maybe a 2080 without bottlenecking. So bottlenecking means you have a really bad CPU, let's say AMD Athlon, really old, about 5 years old, and you're using a 2080 Ti, alright? Everyone would just make fun of you because your CPU can't keep up with your GPU speed. So in order to prevent bottlenecking, you want a CPU that is fairly good to match with your GPU. And what that means is make sure it's fairly new and there's decent reviews and you've heard of it before. So if you want to go for more of a gaming performance, I would get a Ryzen 2600 and then maybe buy a maybe buy a 1660 Ti instead for the GPU. So here, my friend wanted more of a overall and upgrade in the future type build. So the Ryzen 5 3600 is great for upgrading in the future. So we got that CPU, and now in terms of price, since he was on a tight budget, we're actually going to do GPU last, and we're going to get into the power supply next. So how are you going to power your computer? You're going to use a power supply, right? This is what plugs into the wall and powers your motherboard, CPU, and all that good stuff. So in order to save money on your power bill, you're going to want, they give it a rating, so 80 plus bronze, gold, platinum, titanium. Usually you're going to get bronze if you're on a budget, and it still saves a lot of money. I'm pretty sure it's 90% efficient. So right here, the cheapest one is 49 bucks. Go ahead and add that one. And it doesn't matter whenever you buy the parts. I would always check because the prices will change. So maybe in a week or two, this could go down to $39. So don't buy this exact one. I would always check the prices at the time you're buying it. So now let's get into the case. All right, like I said, since we're on a tight budget and he wants to upgrade in the future, we're gonna do video card last. And if it was the other way, you just want a good high-end gaming computer right away, I would do the CPU last and probably the GPU first. So yeah, that's about it. For the case, we went with a Deep Cool Matrix 36 or Matrix 30, I believe. Matrix 30. So as you can see right here, there's something called Micro ATX Mini and ATX Mid Tower. So what ATX and Micro ATX refers to is the motherboard. So right here you see the M, the B450M. This means that the and you see Micro ATX. This means that the motherboard is smaller and is more compact. So if you want a little bit of a smaller case, it's not really like a tiny case, it's like a mid-size, I guess kind of small. But I personally own a M motherboard, so it comes with I buy a smaller case. So right here you can see it has an ATX form factor and a Micro ATX form factor. So for this specific build, we went with a Micro ATX form factor, and that will relate to what case you buy. So if you buy an M motherboard, it will be compatible with any case. But if you buy a full-size ATX motherboard, right, then it won't be compatible with a Micro ATX case. So let's say I got a motherboard that was huge, right, ATX motherboard, well, not huge, just a regular size ATX motherboard, and then I wanted to use this case, a Micro ATX Mini Tower. It would not work. You would have huge problems, okay? The motherboard would be bigger than the case, and you'd have a problem there with compatibility. So I would automatically, if you're buying ATX motherboard, do not buy a Micro ATX case. Buy an ATX mid or an ATX full, okay? So now with this case that we bought for this build, since he got a smaller motherboard, we can get a smaller case, more compact case. So it's $59 now, but at the time we bought it, it was only $39. So we're gonna manually enter that as $39. And it has tempered glass. It's a really good case. You'll see later on in the build review. Now let's get to the video card. So with the video card, again, I'm using these filters here. If you're going for about the same budget build, I would go down to the Radeon side, and I would select 56, 55, RX 590, RX 580, because these are the cards that are going to be in your budget. And then I'll go up to the GeForce ones. I missed them. And I'll go to about 1060, maybe a 1070, a 1660 Super, a 1660, 1650, just so you can see what's in your price budget, in your price range at the time. And then I'll go to click price up, and right here, $159 for a 1650 Super. That is a great deal. At the time that we built his computer, this was about $180, $170. So we're gonna go ahead and add this, but we're not gonna add this. Sorry. If you're gonna build it today, that's the card you would use. But the card that we used for him was a RX 5500 XT. It was this card right here. This is the oh no, that's not. We use this card right here. 5500 XT, and we bought it for about $160 at the time. So there we go. We're gonna enter the price there, and you're done. So we have the CPU, which is compatible with this motherboard, and you can buy it on Micro Center if it's in your area. We have the RAM, we have the storage, which is all preference, and the RAM I would always get 2 sticks of 8, and then buy at least 3000 speed, so a total of 16 gigs at 3000 speed. And then for this guy's build, we went with a little bit of a less powerful graphics card, but it still gets very good frames, and we'll talk about that later on. We have the case, which is just any other average case, $39, pretty cheap, and the power supply. So that's all you need. That brings us to a total of $552. Yep, that looks about right. So, yep, there's the total. We're all done with the build. Maybe after tax, it'll be a little bit higher, but you're about $550, and that's all you need. So these are all the parts, and now we're going to get into a step-by-step guide on how to build the computer.
All right. Now let's get into the actual build. So if you guys don't already know, this isn't our PC. This will be for a friend. So he bought all the parts, but we told him exactly what to buy. This is the motherboard right here, MSI B450 Pro M2 Max. Let's give it a quick pop open. I would always be careful when you open the motherboard box because there will be screws that can fly out sometimes, and those screws could be very important. So very carefully, it is in plastic, so it's not that big of a deal if you move it around a little bit. I would set that down right there for a little bit. Let's open up the rest of the box. As you can see, we got the I/O shield. This will be important when we open up the case, which we got down over there. This is important for that part. These are drivers. You honestly don't need this because it's all online. You can download it off Google, but save it just in case. They got a bunch of things. They got stickers, pretty cool. Put this on your case, you know, flex your MSI, pretty cool. They have an installation guide, which can be very, very, very important. However, right now, we kind of already know what we're doing. This is a SATA cable, so you're going to keep this for later. Pretty much, I would be careful with this because there might be some important things you don't want to lose. Now we're going to close this up, and this is actually where we're going to build the PC, if that makes sense. We're going to put the motherboard, CPU, and the RAM all on this, okay? And if I didn't go over it already, you're going to need a knife to cut open some boxes right here. You're going to need a screwdriver with multiple bits. You pretty much need a standard bit, but it's better to have more. And that's all you need to build it. Really simple. So now let's get into how to install the CPU and the RAM. Alright, now let's get into the actual motherboard and working inside of the motherboard. So this, I guess, as in the name, it's a motherboard. Everything in the PC will plug into this thing. So yeah, that's pretty much the base of a motherboard. We're going to carefully open up this plastic. Whew, I got some tough tape on here. Carefully, like I said, carefully. That's fine. It's in plastic, so if you're not very careful with it, it's still fine. Ugh. Alright, there we go. We got that open. Flip it on its right side and grab it slowly. As you can see, there's a lot of pins, right? You want to be very delicate with these pins, okay? So, in terms of being delicate, I would always recommend setting it directly on top of your motherboard box because this thing is flat and it won't damage the pins. In fact, I would almost require you to, because if you damage the pins, your PC's done. Okay, so be careful with that. Let's get into the CPU installation. So we got a Ryzen 5 3600, amazing processor. Let's get our little handy dandy knife cut away from us. You know, little tool we got. All right, let's open up this box. It's always fun to open CPUs. Let's see if I can do it carefully. Oh my goodness. Okay, there we go. All open. Be very careful. The CPU may slip out, so you're gonna slowly just hold it. Right there's the CPU. So here's the CPU. We got a bunch of guides, got some stickers. This will be the cooler, so we're gonna need this in a later step. But first, we're just gonna install the CPU. So, as with the motherboard, bunch of pins. Okay, these pins are almost more delicate than the motherboard pins. Okay, this is ruined. That's pretty bad for you, okay? So we're gonna slowly open this up, okay? Very slowly, and then we'll set this aside for now. So where does the CPU go on the motherboard, right? It's gonna go right in this little square area, usually on the top of the motherboard, and there should be a retention arm. This is called a retention arm. So right now, if you can zoom in real quick, it can come out like that. It's held under a little thing right there. I don't really call it. It's held under that. So you can lower it. You can put it higher. So when you're installing it, you want to put it directly up top on the top. Okay. And then we're gonna find a little triangle. So as you can see, or actually it's a circle. So you can see the circle is right there. And if you guys can see that, there's a gray circle right there. And we're gonna line it up with the triangle on the CPU right there. You see there's a little, I think I'm missing it. There's a little triangle right on that side. So we're going to line it up with that. I think it'll be clear when I open this up. Let's see. Oh, right here. There's a triangle. You can see a little gold triangle right there. So we're going to line that triangle up with that circle on the motherboard. So very carefully, CPU, all right? Be very careful with this thing. We're going to set it, there's the triangle, there's the dot, and all we're going to do is drop it right in, all right? We drop it in, okay? You heard that little click maybe. Just drop it straight in. You're good to go, okay? CPU's lined up. triangle with the dot, all good to go. You're gonna lower this arm. Lower that down there. CPU installed, ready to go, looking nice. Perfect. Now, we will do the cooling later. They have some pretty installation guides here. You don't really need these, to be honest. You can keep the box, looks pretty nice. But let's get into the RAM. So this is 16 gigabytes of DDR4 at 3000 megahertz RAM. They got it on sale for about like $50, $57. Really good pricing. I don't really know how to open RAM. I just go right at it. There we go. Get a little rip right there. Ooh, be very careful. This plastic can be sharp.
You can cut this and then open.
Oh yeah, okay, that would be smarter. Cut this open. But yeah, see, I'm not really good with cutting RAM open. I'll be honest with you guys. All right, there we go. All right, so let's get the RAM wide open. There we go. That's smart. All right, so cool paint, whatever. I mean, it's a warranty, but honestly, these things last amazing. T-Force has amazing RAM. I use it in my PC. Never ever doesn't work. Always works perfectly. So we're gonna pop the RAM out. It's annoying to get out. These aren't that delicate. Just be careful with the bottom sides of it. There we go. All right. So as you can see, 2 sticks of RAM. Pretty looking nice. Little gray matching the color theme. So now let's tilt this open. So where does the RAM go? On the motherboard. It's going to go in these 2 slots. On some motherboards, there will be 4. But you really only need 2 because we're using 16 gigs. That's more than enough for casual gaming use. So we're going to open up. We'll do one at a time. So as you can see, you can open these things up. Really simple. They click. They click when they're open and closing. So we're going to open up both sides. And then we're going to line this DIMM up with that middle thing right there. Might take a few tries. I might do it wrong the first time. You just gotta flip it around. And then you're gonna get it in, lined up. I might have done it backwards, did I? I don't know. I think I did the right way. Yeah, I think I did it backwards. Okay, well that's okay. Flip it right around. It's not a problem. You're gonna get lined up. And then you're gonna put pressure down. And it should click. Alright, so we had some technical difficulties with the RAM. That was just my bad. So we're going to line this little DIMM up, I guess. On this side, it's going to be the right side of the DIMM right there. And it's going to be lined up with this little thing. Honestly, trial and error is the easiest. There's only 2 ways it can go. This way or that way. Just do trial and error. It's not that big of a deal. So we're going to line it up. You got to be super careful when you line it up. That was my other problem. So we're gonna line it up. That looks like it's in, and then we're just gonna.
It's not in.
Put some pressure.
Just gotta take it out from that side. Put it now. Try it.
Okay. Now it clicked on one side. You saw it clicked right there. You see that? This is closed and this side's open. So put pressure on that side and let's put some pressure on this side. That click right there. You guys see that? It's locked in both sides. See this side? No RAM, right? So it's wide open. This side, it's locked in, right? We can't move it. The RAM's installed, okay? That's all it is for the RAM. Little difficulties, that's just my bad. Do a little trial and error and you'll be just fine. Let's get in the second stick. Same process as the first one. Line it up very carefully. Right there. And then put pressure on one side. Click. Pressure on the other. Click. Alright. Both DIMMs are installed. Click, click. Now we're going to get into how we cool the CPU. Because these things will run, 90 Celsius plus. So we got to cool it down for the max performance. Alright, so now that we have these screw here's right here, the screws are out. The retention brackets are out. If you guys don't already know, we are using this cooler right here. Let's unbox it, blah, 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 real quick. Pop it open. So how will this screw onto the motherboard? You're going to open it upside down, by the way, so you don't smudge this thermal paste. It is like a glue substance, so if you touch that, it'll be pretty bad. But how are we going to screw? So all you got to do is just hold it from the sides, I guess. Pretty simple. How are we going to install this to the motherboard, right? As you can see, there are screws right here on all 4 sides of the cooler. Screw, 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 screw. So where does it actually attach, right? We took these brackets out, so where does it attach? I'm going to do something that's kind of stupid, but I'll show you just to show you guys. I'm going to lift this motherboard straight up, and look what's going to fall out. A back plate, okay? So this is the standard stock cooler back plate. So we're going to put it back down, and we're going to put the motherboard back on. But essentially, the stock cooler screws are going to attach to the back plate right there, the back plate. So we're going to align it back up. Right there. Pop it right down. All right, there you go. Really simple. Now, pop open the stock cooler, hold it by both sides, and we're going to line up the screws with the back plate. So line up the screws. And be very careful with this step, okay? As you can see, I didn't get it right the first time. There we go. All right, as you can see, all the screws are in, but they're not screwed down, okay? Actually, I think... yeah, this is a good side to do it. This will be fine, right? Yeah. All right, so we got it all down. We got the stock cooler on the bracket. So now let's install this. Now you screw it down. But when you screw it down, you're gonna screw it down diagonally. So if that makes sense to you, great. But if it doesn't, I'll show you. So you're gonna lightly screw that down there. And then, instead of screwing this side, you're going to go directly diagonal and screw in this side, okay? And what this will do, if you guys saw that gray substance on the back of the cooler earlier, that's going to spread it across the CPU evenly, all right? So we got a little bit there, a little bit there. Now let's get to this corner. And then we're going to do the direct opposite. Ooh, direct opposite corner. So a little bit there. You don't want to do too much, though, because you want to try to get it evenly spread. Screw that part in. Pretty simple. Go back to the top. Just repeat the process until it's pretty screwed down. So as you can see, I can't move it anymore. So that's should be good to go. Alright, now you're good to go. All you gotta do, plug in the fan, right? Plug in the fan header so this thing will spin. So what you're gonna do is, to make sure it's screwed in before we do the actual thing, you're gonna this is gonna be sketchy, but I recommend doing it just to make sure it's screwed in enough. Grab the cooler and make sure you can hold it. Okay, if you can hold it, you're good. Okay, so all we're gonna do is as you can see with the thing, there's a little line right there, there's a little ridge. Okay, and you're gonna line this ridge up. Right here is this. It says in the little writing CPU fan header, and then we're just gonna give it a good plug in right there. And as you can see, it's in there, okay? So now when we boot up the computer, the fan will be spinning and the CPU will be cooling. So that's all you need to know. Now let's get into the actual case installation and how this plus the GPU is gonna go in with the case. Alright, so we finished the motherboard. We managed the cable a little bit. We put it behind this little sound thing, I guess. Just a little electric thing. Don't worry. This is just to make it look nice. A little thing before we move on. I want to say that when you install the cooler, you're going to move the logo away from the RAM. So if the RAM is facing this way, the logo should be in the opposite direction. Little thing I want to say. And also, if you have an M.2 SSD, you're going to plug it in right here. And you're going to use this motherboard included screw to plug it in. Right there. That is the M.2 slide. You're just going to put it right in, screw it down, you're good to go. But for our budget purposes, usually M.2 SSDs are more expensive. But anyways, let's move on, get into the case. So, this is the Deep Cool Matrix 30, $35. Just take that into consideration when we're using this case, okay? Most cases that are good are around $60, $60, $70, okay? This case is half of that with a glass panel, okay? With the glass panel, and it's really compact. I don't know if you guys can see this, but it's not big at all. Like, I could probably take this to work and whack if I had to and move it from house to house because it's really small and compact. So keep that in mind when we're building this. It's small and great for the price. So we're going to move it on its side for now, okay? Let's remove the glass. That's the first thing. So we're just going to unscrew. These screws are amazing for $35. Look at that. You just screw them right in. Really simple. They're kind of thumbed, I guess. They don't come out. Well, they do, but These stay in real nice. It's really simple compared to some other glass cases. Some are extremely difficult to take out. So, with the glass, of course, it's glass, so you gotta be careful. Never lose these screws. If you lose these, you are screwed. You're gonna take this glass out carefully, and I'm just gonna set it down on a chair or some flat surface for later. So, right here, all the cables are jumbled up. Really doesn't look like much cable management, and to be honest, there isn't, but that's okay. Included, there's about 6 zip ties, so we'll use this later. And there's a bunch of these are motherboard screws and motherboard standoffs. Sorry, I lost the word. And a bunch of other screws, so don't lose these either. And now I'm gonna flip this case directly up. So with most cases, there's a PSU shroud. So what that means, this part is covered, so you don't see this part. But in this case, the PSU, which is the power supply, is going to sit right here, okay? So we'll get into that installation first. Usually you install the power supply last, but because this case is kind of different, we're going to install it right here first. So if you guys are also wondering what all these cables are, these cables are called front I/O, and what that means, okay, so this is a USB, this is a aux, this is whatever, right? They have a bunch of small cables. So this, okay, those cables are up here, okay? So when you touch these buttons, you know, if they're not plugged into the motherboard, how are they going to work? So later on, once we install the motherboard and the power supply, we're going to install these cables. So after this little tutorial of the case, I guess that you can also open up the back. We'll do that real quick, show you guys what's up there. We'll get into the motherboard installation. So all you gotta do, these are thumbed, I believe. Oh, no, they still come out, okay. Take them out, don't lose those either. And I think it should slide straight back, just like that, pop out. So here's the back of the case. So you can fit 3 hard drives, 1, 2, 3. And then you can also fit a SSD right here, a 2.5 drive right here, more hard drive spaces. A lot of room for storage. It comes with 1 rear fan right there. And yeah, this is the back of the case, so all the cables will sit right here. So now, before we actually do the power supply, let's do something real simple. Let's do the I/O shield. So this will be included in the motherboard box. So we're just going to give it a quick rip. Pretty standard. There we go. They may be a little bit sharp, so you want to be careful. Sharp edges. This can be annoying, can be very simple. Just depends on how you're feeling. So you're going to put it facing, so all the sharp things, right? It's gonna face you. You're gonna make it face you, and then you're gonna pop it in right here down where the case is.
It's the other way.
My bad. It's gonna be this way, and then you're just gonna pop it right in. And you might have to give it a few little push. And then it should be good right there. So as you can see, it kind of clicked in. Right there, clicked in. And there you go. Your I/O shield is installed. There you go. So this is where you're going to plug in your extra USBs and all of that. And your motherboard will also go right there. So now we're going to install the power supply, then the motherboard, and then we'll boot this thing up and see how it runs. So right here, we got power supply, Raid Max Scorpio. Woo. There you go, you can see the box. Anyways, here's the power supply. It is a semi-modular power supply. So what that means is the 3 essential cables you need are the GPU cable, so PCIe, the CPU cable, I think I did the wrong order, CPU, PCIe, and the 24-pin motherboard, okay? So these are the 3 essential cables are already attached. As you can see, they're not detachable, okay? They're stuck to the actual power supply. So let's open this up. So those are the 3 main cables, and then for our build, we're also going to need this one. This is SATA cable. We're going to use this last though, so don't worry. And this is the other wall cable, so I'll show you guys right now. What this will do is this will just plug in right here, okay? It'll plug in right there, and then this will plug into the wall, and this will power your PC. So save that for later. Save the SATA for later, or SATA power cable for later. So this box to the side, and let's get into the case. So power supply right here. Pretty standard. Got a nice blue fan. Pretty nice. Pretty cool. It is 80 plus bronze. I always recommend going 80 plus bronze or higher gold, silver or whatever. Just always go at least bronze for your own power sake. Let's go ahead and untie these little jumbo cables. I'm not gonna lie, I like this power supply, even though it's little, like the cables aren't all black. I still like it for the sake that it is very cheap at the time I bought it. So it's gonna go, the fan is gonna go like this, right? Or sorry, it's gonna go this way. Yeah. So the switch that plugs into the wall is gonna go on the outside of the case. All right. And then these wires, I'm gonna actually throw them in here. Okay, and they're gonna go through the back of the case. All right. So if you guys see how I'm doing, I'm gonna throw it in the hard drive case, because when you guys might have to cable management different, but I don't have a hard drive, so I'm not really gonna be using these cages at all, or maybe later down the line. But for now, I can route it through there. And then this is the fan header, so leave that over there. And then we're gonna line it up right here, and then we're gonna find the screws. So we're gonna open up our handy dandy little screw pouch, and we'll get in the screw in them. All right, so quick disclaimer. As you can see, the power supply fan actually goes facing downwards. I made a mistake. So this is going to be on top. The power supply fan will be down below. But yeah, that's really it. A little mistake I made. Very simple. But this case, remember, it's $35. So there is no manual included. It can be very confusing. All right. There's so many screws. All right. A lot of random screws here, as you can see. First things first, we're going to install the power supply screws. So right here, this is what it looks like. So we're going to quick focus right here. Right there, a little power supply screw right there. Pretty standard screw. We're just going to plug that straight into the power supply shroud. And we're going to hand the rest of the build over to the tech guru, Chinook. So yeah, let's take it away. Alright, as you guys can see, we routed the cables back through this little hole down here. And then we just put it through the back of the case. Little cable management tip, because you want to keep this clear for the hard drives. So, pretty standard stuff. Yeah, now we're going to install the motherboard. So, the screws you're going to need are, I'm going to put it flat. The screws you're going to need is right here. These motherboard, they're all screwed into the stand so you can get a focus. Focusing, not really focusing very well. There we go. All right. Well, these are the screws you're gonna need. There's gonna be 6 of them. It's not really focusing very well. That's whatever. These are the screws. Pretty standard screws. They're gonna plug in to the motherboard. So Chinook will teach us how.
All right. So right now I'm just trying to align the motherboard along with the
Take it out back in.
Yeah.
So we show them. So I recommend grabbing it by this cooler, or you can just hold it by both sides. Either technique works.
So look down here. These are the standoffs. Sometimes they come in the case. Sometimes they're just screws that you have to screw in by yourself. But in this case, we have 6 right now because it's a smaller board. And if we look on the motherboard right now, there are 6 holes, and that's where we'll align the motherboard.
Show us the holes.
So this is one of them, and there's 6 structured around them.
All right.
So let's line it in.
We had a little trouble with the I/O shield. When you put in the motherboard, you're gonna line it up with the standoffs across the case, and then as you can see, I don't know what angle you can get, but it's eventually the sides are gonna come out right here with the front I/O. So lining this up may be challenging. Just pushing the motherboard a little bit to this side, but you can be a little careful, but you can give it a little good push.
Yep.
And then now we'll screw it straight in.
So just take out the motherboard screws, give it in the case, align it with the standoffs, and you just gotta screw it in. Gotta screw 6 of them in.
So they're aligned all throughout the board. I think there's 2 on the bottom, 2 on the top, and then 2 in the middle somewhere. But as you can see, he's just gonna take the motherboard screws we showed you earlier. We line it with the standoffs and then screw it straight in. Pretty standard stuff.
Make sure not to screw it in too tight. There's a chance you could crack your motherboard, and no one wants that to happen.
Yep. So be careful when you screw it in. Just be cautious. Be cautious.
Yeah.
We'll screw 6 of these in, and we'll see you guys later when we're done with the screws. And then we'll get into installing the GPU. That's pretty cool.
Alright, so before we get into the GPU, we're gonna plug in some stuff and route some cables. We're gonna take our outtake fan, which is our back fan. We're gonna take its connector, align the ridges, as you can probably see. Find the part on the motherboard that's labeled system fan. Take the connector, connect it. See if I got it. I don't got it.
You just gotta line the ridges up, and you're good.
I got it.
There you go.
Yep.
So where is it?
It's just right above the PCIe connector, the M.2.
There's the fan, and that's the one that's powering. It's powering this fan right here. There we go.
Alright, now we're gonna take our SATA cables. These came with the motherboard. Just pop one out because we need this for our SSD. And this is gonna connect to our motherboard to our SSD. And there's gonna be one more cable connected to our SSD, which is coming from our power supply. Probably gonna do that.
We'll use this one later.
Yeah.
All we're doing right now is just making life easier later down the line because these cables are going to be hard to manage. So all we do is just plug in the fan, get the SATA cable, I'll show you where, and then we'll get into the GPU and finally the power supply cables, front I/O, and boot it up.
As a matter of fact, I'm going to use this one. It's got an L shape to it. It's going to be easier to cable manage.
Remember, you can do it any which way. PCs are pretty, you can get creative with it. We're just going to do what's easiest for beginners and for us.
So we take this screw right here. It's called the SATA cable. It's going to connect to one of these slots next to the 24 pin. So let's take, I guess this one. This one should be fine. And that's in, and this should connect to our SSD when we plug it in.
So we're just going to plug it in and route it through the back right there,
Yeah.
so it'll be all nice and clean later on. And that's it. Now let's get right into the GPU.
Alright, so before we actually get into the GPU, just one more quick thing. We gotta connect the front I/O stuff. So down here, the bottom part of the motherboard, there should be all your front I/O. You got a USB 3.0, you got your audio, 2 USB slots, and all the buttons you need. I don't know if you can see it, but it's also mentioned in the manual where you can plug stuff in, as you can see here.
Just consult your manual, and there will be writing also on the cables.
Yeah.
So if you guys can read the writing. Like, sometimes it says USB right there.
This one is another USB.
USB. It has writing there. Just read the fine print. This part can be very tedious. Just be careful. You just got to plug it in down in the bottom. And then once that's plugged in, then you're ready for the GPU. Because technically you could do the GPU first, but just to make life easier, there'll be a lot of space if you do the front I/O before the GPU.
Yeah,
So there's the front I/O, and we'll see you after it's all plugged in.
Right, so we got our front I/O done. Now for the GPU, we gotta take off these brackets on the side. This will allow us to put in connections like DisplayPort or HDMI.
Go ahead and unscrew that, and there's the front I/O. Took about 10 minutes, but for you guys it might take about 40. It's kind of difficult, so just be patient. We'll route these cables later. It's kind of a mess right now, but don't worry. We're just gonna get the GPU plugged in. So you just gotta unscrew this, and that's all you gotta do.
So in order to make clearance for the GPU, we had to unscrew some stuff. So these are the two screws on my hand. This was the bracket that came out with it. This was the little holder. And we had to pop out one of these little stuffs. Right
So
here.
all you gotta do is just kind of push with your finger a little bit. It's already kind of budging. You just push it out, and then make sure you have 2 of them for clearance.
And that should leave enough space to put in your GPU. In our case, it's right here. ASRock Radeon.
Get into the unboxing of the GPU.
So
Yeah.
we open it up. Plastic covering, very nice. Lift it up out.
There is also a manual right here. It's pretty basic
No.
things. There we go.
Yeah.
Right there. kind of useless, but it's there if you need it.
So let's take this out. Alright. Very nice. Steel fans. Nice clean look. There's these rubber stuffs on the connectors, so just take this out.
I will say before we actually put it in, it is very similar to RAM. The installation process, if not similar, identical. Very close. There is also a nice back plate on this thing, so it looks pretty cool. You're also going to want to take out the things on the ports as well. There are going to be plastic coverings there.
Yeah.
You can see right there. Just going to take them out. There you go. Now let's get into the installation.
So all you gotta do is just align this with the little flip switch thing. So the moment we push it in, it should click into place.
And don't forget to open it just like the RAM. So you're going to open the switch and then you're going to put it right in. You're going to have to use a little bit of pressure, so don't be scared.
Alright, where we at? Let's push it in.
You guys heard that click? There's a little thump, boop, boop. And yeah, now it's in, so now let's get the screws going. Let's screw it into this side right there.
Alright. Screws.
Just grab the same screws from earlier that we screwed out, and we're just going to screw it right back on the top. And if you're interested, these are the ports. So there's HDMI, there's 2 HDMI, 1 display port. Actually, sorry, 3 display ports and 1 HDMI.
Wow.
So plenty of ports. I think that's actually very good. I use a lot of display port. I think it's a higher frequency, and I just like how it fits better. HDMI kind of wiggles, so I do like display port. I like that about this GPU. It really does look nice. Fits with the build. Also, it matches the screwdriver. But yeah, we're just gonna screw it in, and then we're gonna get into cable management. As you can see, the cables are a big mess. Get into the cable management, and then we'll boot it up and see how it works. Alright, so as you guys can see, the PC is coming together. We decided to route the front I/O cables right on top of the hard drive cage through there. And then we routed it back there and brought it through that one right there. And then we redid the front I/O. So all the cables are right here. We brought it down there, all the front I/O cables. So front I/O, it looks, I mean, you can still see the wires, but when the glass comes on, it'll be less visible. It is looking like a PC now. So before we do anything else though, before we start plugging the power supply, we're going to do the SSD. So right here, already unboxed it. Right, we got the SSD right there, as you guys can see.
You know, this part connects to the PSU, this part connects to the motherboard.
Oh, let me focus that real quick. So the smaller one is the motherboard. The smaller side, the right side is the motherboard, and the left side is going to be the power supply. All right, the bigger one. So now we're gonna, on this case, we're gonna put it on that 2.5 drive right there. It's gonna be standing vertical. So for this, we're gonna turn on the case, flip it onto the back, and then he's gonna line it up here.
Yep.
And then he's gonna take these screws. He's gonna take these 4 screws right here. All right. So we get focus. He's gonna take these screws right here. Not focusing very well. There you go. And just these screws right here, and we're going to screw it in from the front side. So let's go ahead and do one of those. So from the back side, we're going to hold the SSD. And the front side, we're going to have a screw going right in. We're going to have a screw going in. So back here, we got the SSDs holding it through there. It's kind of sketchy, but it works. And then on the front side, you're just going to go ahead and screw this right in, if you guys can see that. So there we go. We're going to do that to all 4 sides. SSD is going to stay there. And when we're done with this, looking pretty nice, we're going to take all these cables and we're going to put it where they need to be. So we'll be with you guys right in a sec.
Alright, so we have the SSD screwed in. Now all we got to do is plug it into the motherboard and plug it into the power supply. So we take this, plug it in the power supply. It's got like one of these flat ends. Just gotta route it through the back here. It's a tight fix, got a lot of stuff going on.
So you're just going to plug this little thing in the power supply, and then it'll connect to our SSD, which I'll show you guys is right in the back right there. You guys can see that. Right there in the back. So we got to first plug it in the power supply. And then after that, we'll get into the motherboard 24 pin, which would be right here. And we'll also get into the PCIe, which would be right here. And then after that, we'll get into the CPU pin, and we'll boot it up, and we'll be done. So right now here, as you can see, he got the wire plugged into the actual power supply right there, plugged in there, and now he's routing it through the back, so you can plug it into the SSD. All right. Can be kind of tedious because there are a lot of cables, and this case is not the best cable management case. But like I said, $35, not complaining. And yeah, let's get this SSD cable. So we're gonna flip it to the back.
Whoops.
And here's the SSD.
So I guess for the sake of management, we'll just use the bottom one. We gotta find the.
So remember the longer one on the SSD. Use the SSD. And the longer side right there, you're gonna plug in the power supply cable. And then the other cable is right here. This is the motherboard one, all right? Right here.
Yep.
So as you can see, we got this plugged in. The left side, this is the long one. And then we're gonna cable manage nicely and take the motherboard cable, which we routed in the beginning to make life easier. And we're gonna plug that in right on the other side of the SSD. Other side. Yeah, so we're just gonna plug in the SSD, and then we got the 24 pin, CPU, GPU, and we're all good.
Just gotta do stuff about that.
You can run it.
And that's about it at the bottom.
Alright, well. See, you'll come into these little technical difficulties, not that big of a deal. You just gotta figure out how to route the cables, whatever is best for you, whatever is easiest for you, and yeah. So we're running the SATA cable from the motherboard down below here instead. It's a little bit easier for us.
Okay.
Alright, now we got the motherboard cable plugged in. We just switched around the cables because other one wasn't working. Now we got all these cables to deal with right here. So the longest one right here is the 24 pin. This is called 24 pin motherboard. So let's do that one first. I always recommend doing that one first. It's the biggest one. As we know, the motherboard powers everything. So we're gonna route it through wherever it fits best, and then flip it on the front. Flip down to see, and flip it around, blah blah blah, and then here we go. Cable's right here, and let's show them where we're gonna plug it in.
So it's sort of obvious, 24 pin, just a big thing right here.
Yeah, as you guys can see, there's a huge thing right there. It's right next to the RAM stick.
I can't really see it myself.
Right there, huge thing. So we're just plugging it in, and then after that, we'll get into the two other main powers you gotta plug in.
So we got the 24 pin in. The bit of effort. It's pretty
Yeah,
hard to push
you're gonna
into.
have to put some pressure on it, but it'll get in. It'll get
So
in.
we're gonna take the CPU one right now, just route it to the top. Because CPU connectors are usually at the top left.
See, the CPU connector
Yeah.
will be on the top left. Wait, let me focus it first. It'll be right somewhere on that top left corner,
Right there.
right around there. So that's where you're gonna plug in your CPU, and then the graphics card one will be plugged in right down there.
So,
And feel free to route it anywhere you want. We just thought was best for this case. If you guys have a different case, there may be a specific place to route these cables. But yeah, I think we did a fairly decent job of cable management. We didn't spend too long, not too little, decent amount of time. But be patient with it. If you're building your own PC, you want it to look nice, you gotta be patient with it. So right now, it can be kind of a hassle because it is in that top left corner, so it's not the easiest. But eventually you'll get it. You'll get it. And I think...
I'm gonna move the CPU fan just to make it.
Yeah, so see, right now we're going to unplug the CPU fan to make it a little bit easier to route. Small things like this make the PC build experience not for everyone. Because sometimes you got to kind of wing it, I guess. You got to wing it. So we're just unplugging and replugging things. But there we go. The CPU fan, or the CPU power supply cable is plugged in right up there, if you guys can see that. And we plugged in the fan again, right? And we're good. Now, the GPU.
Yeah. So where's
This one, probably the bottom, we'll plug it in. The bottom one, or maybe the middle. Maybe the middle one. So we're going to route the cable through the middle one. And this GPU one It varies per GPU. So some GPUs you're gonna need 6. So as you can see, that it's 4x4. It's a 4x4 little cable thing. But for some GPUs, it's 6x6.
It's 2x4.
Or sorry, 2x4. My bad. I'm kind of smart right now. But sometimes it's 2x6, sometimes it's 2x4. So this one is 2x4. And then we're just gonna go ahead and plug it straight in to the GPU. And this is the last cable we're gonna have to plug in for the. Well, there's one more, but this is the last one that you're gonna have to use the case with. So after this, we're gonna go ahead and grab the glass, put it on. And actually, before that, let's do a little satisfying reveal. Hold on, I'm gonna peel it real quick.
Oh, the GPU?
Yeah. All right. So hold it. Hold on. All right, bet. So there's some plastic right here. Just gonna go ahead and give it a nice. Look at that. Oh yeah.
That's hot.
Oh yeah. Look at that.
That's hot.
That is not a bad PC. Let's also pull the cables back. We're gonna route the cables, make it look a little nicer, and we'll film some B-roll for you guys. Let us know if you're interested in that B-roll. We try our best. So there's the final PC. Just throw the glass on. We actually don't want to throw the glass on until you fully boot it. So right now we're gonna show you what the booting process looks like, and I'll have a little tutorial about how to install the Windows flash drive. Got it right here. Windows is on this drive right here. You need an 8 gig drive. Already explained it. We'll show you guys that right now. And after that, we'll boot this bad boy up, see how it runs, and that'll be it for the video. Alright, in order to install Windows on your new PC, all you have to do is go to this website right here. Alright, all you're going to do is go to download tool now. So what you're going to need is a flash drive that has at least 8 gigabytes, okay? And if there's anything on the flash drive, it'll automatically be deleted. And then once the Windows is already downloaded, you can always delete it afterwards, so you have a clear flash drive. But for this purposes, make sure to back up everything on flash drive, delete everything, and then have a clear 8 gig flash drive, alright? You're going to go to this website, the link will be down in the description. And go ahead and hit download tool now, and then you're going to choose the USB that you have plugged in. So right here, USB. And right here, we're going to hit save. And then we're going to download it. And right here, it says exe. You're going to open that right up. And give it permission. It's going to ask a little for permission, and that's it. You're going to let it do its thing, and it should be installed soon. And then once you're done with the whole installation process, you're going to eject the USB. And when you're ready to boot your new PC, you're going to go ahead and plug that in and boot it up, and you should have Windows installed. Alright, we just booted the computer. There we go. So we plugged in all the USBs, got the HDMI. Here's our boot drive. We showed you how to install earlier on. And eventually you'll get to this screen. It took us a couple minutes. What I'd recommend is first, don't have this installed. At first, just hit the power button, okay? And then after, hit the reset button a couple times. And eventually you'll see a message that says insert a drive. And when you see that message, put in the USB, hit restart one more time. You'll get this message. And then after this, pretty self-explanatory. And then all you have to do is answer the questions. You're doing English, US, pretty simple. You can hit install. Let it set up, and we'll get back to you when we're actually in Windows. Alright, now let's install the drivers. So all you have to do is research your motherboard name to Google once you're installed, once you've booted up your computer. So our motherboard, we use MSI B450 M Pro V2. So all you're gonna do is Google the name, and right here, actually we're gonna click on the support right here. It's a support. And then right here are the drivers. So this is the BIOS. If you're gonna be overclocking, you might need to flash your BIOS and get a better or the more recent BIOS. But for the most part, you're fine. You don't really need it. So we're gonna go to driver. We're gonna select Windows 10, 64-bit, or whatever you've downloaded to your computer, and then you're gonna download the system and chipset drivers. So AMD chipset drivers and the audio drivers, and that's really all you need. You can install other drivers, but those are the main two. And then you're also gonna need, that's really it for this part. And then you can download more drivers if you need, but that's the main two you need. And then you're also just gonna go type in Windows updates, and then you're gonna go here and you're gonna
type that in the bottom left, hit check for updates, and let it scan your computer for updates. And when it's a new PC, there's going to be a bunch of updates that pop up, and you're going to have to restart your computer a bunch of times. That's perfectly fine. Just keep on updating, and eventually, when you check this a bunch of times, it'll say you're up to date, and you're good to go. So that's the only need for drivers. One more driver you could install is the AMD Ryzen 5 3600 driver and your GPU driver. So right here they have the drivers here, drivers and support, and then you can download drivers here. And then you can also download the graphics card driver. I find that you can, but to be honest, you don't really need to. I recommend it, but you don't need to. So that's all. That's all for the drivers. The AMD CPU and GPU driver, and then the motherboard drivers, and then scan your computer for updates, and you're good to go. Download all your games, download all your programs, and you got a new PC. As you saw, we just finished installing the drivers and checking for updates. And if you can't get into Windows or BIOS, there are 4 things that you always want to check for.
First thing is to take a quick look at your front I/O. The cables are super small, so it's sometimes common to place them in the wrong spot. Second thing is to check your power supply cables. You can not put in the motherboard, like the 24 pin for the motherboard. It's hard to put in, as well as the CPU power supply socket.
It's really bulky, so it can be annoying. And also, we always tell you guys to consult your motherboard manual for the front I/O. That thing is amazing, and if it's not amazing, they'll have an extended motherboard manual on Google where you can just search up your motherboard and then type in manual, and you'll find it with more pictures and diagrams, so you really can't mess with the front I/O. The third thing you want to check is your SATA cable. So sometimes there are multiple SATA cable ports on your motherboard, and you can sometimes they don't work with certain drives. So again, consult your motherboard manual, or just do trial and error and try each port until you find the right one. And the last common problem that we made while building this computer was actually plugging in the HDMI cable to the monitor. So for the most part, people think that you plug in your HDMI cable from the motherboard to the monitor. But in reality, for most budget CPUs like this one, it doesn't have a built-in GPU. So you plug in your HDMI/DVI cable in your graphics card, and then you take the cable from your graphics card to the monitor, and then it should work just fine.
Unfortunately, there's some problems like faulty hardware, which there is no real fix to it. You gotta take it into where you bought the product from and ask for an exchange. You can even contact the manufacturer, but we recommend getting an exchange.
So let's talk about performance. In Cinebench, a CPU-intensive benchmark, the new PC got an impressive score of 3681, which is honestly crazy compared to most CPUs.
The Ryzen 5 3600 rivals its expensive CPU competitors like the i7-8700K, which is twice the price, and got a Cinebench score of 3741. Which is really not that much of a difference.
Yeah, to be honest, I would rather save $120, $130 and go for the cheaper option and get, marginal performance difference. So, in terms of GPU performance though, the budget beast gets an average of 324 FPS with fairly pro settings in the R6 benchmark tester.
They should pop up, I think.
Right now,
yeah.
You'll see them.
After seeing the PC in action, the performance was remarkable and would suit most gamers to their needs.
Overall, we recommend building computers for productivity, gaming, high speeds, and longevity.
We hope you enjoyed the video. Let us know down below if you have any questions or comments.
This will probably be one of our last full PC build videos. We know this one was probably about an hour after editing. There's a link down below though, and in the info card we want you guys to vote for our next video series. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
Actually, one more thing. I want to say, we've been thinking about changing our name for a while. If you guys got any ideas, let us know down in the comments. We're interested.
We are looking for a name change because we know some other YouTubers have a similar name. So, All right, that's about it. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next one.